Well, I did a lot of research before I came, so I did have some realistic expectations, but overall, I loved it. I loved the simple life. I loved how the Filipino people worry more about their day-to-day living. It's affordable, and I really liked how there's less worries here. I think most people just worry about their families, how they're going to get food, make a living. I think it's more simplified compared to the US. I spent most of my life in New York, and there's a lot of things that you worry about in terms of your day-to-day life. And I think here, people still worry, but I think it's more simplified. They have more of a focus on the family first. And I did like that. I definitely did like that.
Was there something that stood out to you right away when you moved here?
There was. I'm just going to refer to my notes so I don't forget anything. I liked how the Filipinos operate in a family. I think what stood out to me was I'll visit someone and they'll have their house, and then they'll say, oh, that's my brother's house, and behind my brother's house is my aunt's house, and next to his house is my grandmother. How you all live in a family area or family plot, that families live together, and you'll have multiple generations living in the same area. And that's not the case in the US. Everybody's typically spread out. You don't have family land. It's very rare, it's uncommon for a family to say, oh, this is my land. And so I really did like that, and that stood out to me. I think the other thing is affordability. I love how you can purchase one egg. You know, in the US, you have to, as an example, you have to purchase 12. And that's it. That's your only choice. 12 eggs or nothing. Sometimes you can get half a dozen, 6 eggs. But here you can get a kilo of rice, 1 egg, 2 chicken legs. So you can get things in smaller portions where that's not the case in the US. So the day-to-day living, that stood out to me. It's more affordable. If you can only afford just to eat for that day, you at least can afford that meal for that day. And so that stood out to me right away. Just a simple life, living with family in a particular area, and affordability.
Okay. We call that tingi-tingi here in the Philippines.
Tingi-tingi,
portion by portion.
Portion by portion. Yeah, interesting. You know, and I thought of another thing too with families, even though, and this stood out to me, even though there are some who may be very poor, especially in the smaller provinces of the Philippines. Even though they're poor, at least they have a house. They might have a little bahay kubo, or they have a little nipa hut, but it's theirs. At least they have a place to live. You know, in the US, you see homeless people in some big cities. I know here in Manila, you will see homeless people too, but in the smaller provinces, you don't really see that. And so if they're poor, they have a little house. It might not be much, but at least it's theirs. Yes, they have a roof over their head. Yeah, exactly.
Did you experience any culture shock? This is really common when it comes to foreigners who lived here. Of course, it's different, right? The culture in America and the Philippines are really different.
Yeah, it is very different. I did a lot of research, and a good friend of mine is a Filipina, so I was able to learn a lot before I came here, and I've never been here before. On my first trip, that was my first trip. I've never experienced Filipino life beforehand, but I watch YouTube videos, I talk to my friend. So I would say I didn't have a very strong culture shock. There wasn't a lot that shocked me. But I think I'd have to pick the funeral customs here. That shocked me. Seeing somebody, the actual body, you know, at the home, and that will stay there. Of course, this is after it's been preserved. The body's there in the home, you know, maybe for a week or a week and a half. People come, eat food, stay up late, and then the procession to the local cemetery, where you have the family walking behind the coffin as it gets pulled by, you know, a truck. I've even seen a horse pull the coffin and everybody walks behind the coffin to the cemetery and they're playing loud music and there's someone singing this whole drama that's unfolding in the street. I mean, that was shocking. Like, what's going on? You just don't have that and see that in the U.S. So I think the funeral customs here, that was shocking. And I know not everybody holds to that custom, but generally speaking, that's what I saw. So that was pretty shocking to me. Let me see if there's anything else. And probably the other thing that's shocking, I think, is the thinking is a little bit different. The thinking is different than U.S. and American way of life. And I think the U.S. we're always planning. Generally speaking, we're always planning for the future, worrying about this and that. We have a lot of worries. And I think it was shocking that here people worry less about things and their way of thinking is really for today. And I think that was a little shocking. People just seem to be a little bit more relaxed, even with their time. I think they're a little bit more relaxed. So I had to be a little less uptight when I came here and learn to relax a little bit.
Let's talk about the food, the culture shock that you've got about food, language, transportation, or lifestyle.
With the food, my parents are originally from the island of Jamaica, so I did know about a lot of the tropical fruits here, some of the vegetables, even though they go by different names. And even some of the cooking, like goat. I've had goat before. Most Americans have not, but for me, coming from a Caribbean background, I was used to that. So I wasn't shocked so much by the food, because in some ways there are some similarities between like Jamaican food or how they cook in the Caribbean compared to Filipino food. And I do enjoy like torta, chicken adobo, sinigang soup. So I do like a lot of the native dishes. So that wasn't too bad. Lifestyle. That was an adjustment. It still is an adjustment. I talked about time, how people are more relaxed. That was challenging, the lifestyle, because in the U.S., and again, this is just my personal experience. It doesn't mean everyone agrees with me. It's just my observation. But if, for example, I say, let's go for lunch, I'll meet you at 11 a.m., I mean 11 a.m. Or if you're coming to my house to fix something like a worker at 2 p.m., I mean 2 p.m., not 3 p.m.
Okay.
And if you're late, you're supposed to text or let me know. There's some people that just don't even show up, or they show up super late. And we're not used to that. We're very rigid with time in the United States. So I had to get used to that. Even when people give invitations, they might say, come after lunch, which is okay. But to me, what does after lunch mean? 12:30, 1, 2. So I'm more comfortable dealing with specific time and time range. So here, the lifestyle in terms of time and how people view time, that was challenging. Language was challenging. Even though most people speak English, it's a different kind of English. So I have to change how I speak. I can't use really advanced, complicated sentence structure or words or idioms. Certain phrases I just avoid. So even though I didn't have to learn the local language, even though I am starting to learn Ilocano, one of the local languages here in the region, language still is a challenge, because I have to simplify sometimes how I speak and then try to interpret how somebody is communicating with me. So communication issues have been challenging, even though I'm speaking English. It still is a challenge.
Okay, so the way you talk in America is not the way you talk here.
Correct. I think the biggest difference is the pace. I do slow down my pace. I think I naturally speak slow anyway, so that helps. But I'm mindful of how fast I talk. I'm careful to enunciate clearly. I do that more here than I do in the US, and I avoid idioms altogether. So any kind of expressions that don't have a literal meaning can cause a lot of confusion. So I avoid it, even though I use it more naturally. I'm more mindful to be very literal when I talk and to use simpler sentences. That way there's just less miscommunication, and it just helps me get what I need and want. And then I'm also being understood, which is really important.
Yeah, thank you for adjusting. You're doing
Sure,
great.
no problem.